This year started off really well. I just bought myself a Nintendo Switch and started a new game on Breath of the Wild. But then, around March time, the year got even better. I found myself with all the time in the world to play even more games. I played a lot during lockdown. Played a load of FIFA with my brother. Jump Rope Challenge kept me fit while staying indoors. Just waiting on that Strava update to really kick this game into the big leagues. Played some oldies like Fortnite and Apex Legends, Mario Odyssey, and of course, I'm still smashing the Wii Sports Bowling. Oh, nearly.
Stop it.
There's plenty of great looking games released last year that I haven't played yet. This video is dedicated to my top 7 games that really stood out to me in 2020, no matter what year they came out. I've not played many games like The Last of Us before. Can only compare it to Tomb Raider on Xbox 360, which I loved back in the day. Playing in 2020, I could tell this was a PS3 game originally, but oh man, it is good. Without a doubt, the best voice acting I've ever heard in a game.
It's pretty goddamn stupid.
I didn't think I'd get this invested in a story, and the ending, whew, mental. If I'd played this game back in 2013-14, it'd probably be one of my favourite games ever. But I didn't. As good as the Last of Us storyline is, it still can't beat a simple train conducting simulator. Conduct Together is a fun little puzzle game that... This is my favourite multiplayer game of the year. All you have to do is drop off passengers at each station within the given time frame and without crashing. One Joy-Con controls the tracks, while the other can stop and start trains. So it works the same way single player as it does with 2. All you have to do is hand the Joy-Con to your fellow conductor. I love these sort of games where you can just pick up and play for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and the soundtrack is mint. Each area has its own take on the main theme. For the boss battles, you've got this synthwave track that sounds just as good in slow motion as it does in real time, and my personal favourite is the tropical theme, which goes... I had a great time playing this with my brother. He's moved out now, but it's okay, I can still have fun on my own. Link's Awakening is a remake of the 1993 Game Boy game of the same title. The game takes place outside of Hyrule on Colint Island. Link washes up on this island and in true Zelda fashion is told by a talking owl that he must wake up the windfish living inside a giant egg on top of a mountain in the middle of the island. The game is relatively short and very straightforward with its dungeons and puzzles. I'm not saying it's easy, but you won't be relying on a walkthrough at any point. You've always got some idea of what you're supposed to be doing. I really like the art direction, and I think it's one of the best looking games on the Nintendo Switch. Everything's got this sort of plasticky sheen, and as with most Zelda games, there's a plethora of quirky characters. Marin's the most interesting character. She's deeply fascinated by you and is constantly talking about the outside world. Despite that, my actual favourite character is Old Man Ulrira, who's super chatty on the phone but really shy when you see him in person. The original 1993 Game Boy game has a huge following, and it's easy to see why after playing the remake. I'd recommend this game to anybody who has a Nintendo Switch. When I defeated my first monster in Undertale and saw 0 XP, I thought, ha, yeah, I get it. It's just going to be a fun little Mickey take of RPG games. Well, I was stupid. The game is so much more. The writing in this game is so good. Every single character is oozing with bizarre personality, like even the random enemies you fight. And if you thought the soundtrack on Conduct Together was good, just wait until you get a load of this. Undertale is a game that sucks you in with its quirky characters, strange world, and unique humour. But it's the story and the deep themes of loss, evil, and determination that will make you want to play this game all over again, which is exactly what I did. Animal Crossing is a game about paying an eternal debt to the Nook family in exchange for a life of leisure on a deserted island. I'd never played an Animal Crossing before, so I was very intrigued as to how this would work. The early game consisted of me weeding, struggling to catch a firefly, being chased by wasps, fishing, eventually catching the firefly, and then I was killed by a scorpion. So I went back to fishing, which is actually one of the best parts of the game because you catch a fish and you're like, ooh, nice. And then you catch a bigger fish and you're like, ooh, nice. And then you catch an even bigger fish and you're like, oh, ho, ho, nice. And then you catch another fish and you're like, yes, there she blows. So that's why I decided my first project would be to build a fish shrine with a torchlit entrance, and the centerpiece, of course, being the great snapping turtle. You can visit your friends' islands online if you like, but I find that you don't really need real friends as long as you've got Bluebear, who is my favourite person in the game. Another great person is Blathers, who runs the museum and has entomophobia. So naturally, one of my favourite things to do is to bring him bugs and see his reaction. But anyway, back to the main point of this game, money. The easiest way to please Monopoly Nook is to buy into the stock market. Now, don't tell anyone I told you this, but there is a top secret website that can help you predict your turnip prices for the week to ensure that you get top bell. I love this game, but I do have a few gripes. Like, why do I have to enter and exit the dressing room every time I want to buy more than one thing? Obviously I want every colour of the Victorian dress, but now I have to come in and out every time, which takes forever. Speaking of forever, why can't I craft things in bulk? I'm trying to make my money for Mr. Nook, but this is what building 100 bamboo shelves looks like. Plus, this isn't really a gripe, but I kind of liked how the old GameCube version let you play NES games. I feel like this would have been perfect to throw 51 worldwide games into. Despite these minor issues, I've loved having this game. Seeing your island grow and improve is so satisfying. It's been the perfect distraction during this time when nothing is happening. You largely make the fun yourself, be it fishing, digging fossils, meeting neighbours, arranging shrines, deforestation. I sunk so many hours into this game, but to some people this is pathetic. So I know a lot of people were disappointed in this game, but I loved it. The Last of Us 2 improves on everything from the first game. The graphics are wow. The physics are ooh. The gun goes bang. The dog goes aww. Yeah. The story seems to be the main point of controversy, so I'll get straight to it. The story in the first game is pretty straightforward. Here, the boxes represent each chapter of the game with its own unique characters and story. And then you have the story of Joel and Ellie's blossoming relationship happening throughout the game. On the other hand, The Last of Us 2 is a little more complicated. So here we have Jackson, Seattle and Santa Barbara. You start the game as Ellie in Jackson and you go to Seattle, but then you start having some flashbacks, so you need to go back to Jackson again, but make sure that you do actually go back to Seattle again. And then later on you go back to Jackson, and then after Jackson you end up going to Santa Barbara. But the thing is, there's this other important character who starts in Seattle, but then she goes to Jackson, but this is before the game has even begun. So she goes to Jackson and then back to Seattle again, but then she starts having her own flashbacks to oh, actually that's another place. So she starts having her flashbacks to other places, but then goes back to Seattle again, and then somehow ends up here again. But you've also got to consider, like I said, there's flashbacks and lots of shifting of time. So time is actually another important character in here who needs their own line and colour, which kind of goes a little bit like this. Now, I know this image looks horrible, but from this mess oozes the key themes of this game: anger, sadness, loss, grief, and revenge. As opposed to the simpler storyline of the first game, The Last of Us 2 is much more thematic, and it totally pulled me in. Thanks to the amazing technology and performances from the actors, you can really feel the anger and the pain of each character's single-minded, crazed and bloodthirsty hunt for revenge. I was so invested in the story that I didn't really appreciate the gameplay enough. I found myself wanting to get through sections quickly so I could get back to the story. As soon as I completed it, I played it again on a harder difficulty and enjoyed it even more. The gameplay is just so satisfying. I'm really glad I managed to play these two games back to back, because it meant I could enjoy them both, uninfluenced by nostalgia or any expectations I may have had. And while there were elements of the story that I wasn't crazy about, and this rope was definitely underutilised, this game is so close to a 10 for me. But not quite a 10. In fact, it's not even my favourite game of the year, because that spot is reserved for Tetris 99! Incredible game. Tetris 99 for the Nintendo Switch. Top stuff right here. Forget your Warzone, Forget your Fortnite, forget your Apex Legends, because this is the ultimate battle royale. Tetris 99? Perfection.